It takes a community part too. I wanted to show that I'm very active, and I'll show part of a parade, a church service, and an opportunity to visit with people at the Chenal, Villas of Chenal. Although born near Belfont, I grew up with a TV and appliance business, RCA and Whirlpool, and coincidentally, my next door neighbor was a dealer at the same time my dad was.
We're just getting going.
My neighbor Jim at the Villas talking about my dad, Joe Lair.
About Joe Lair. Hell of a man. Hell of a man. Never met a stranger. Always trying to sell something. Good guy.
Okay, another neighbor in Villas of Chenal, my cousin Steve Lair and my friend Steve Turner. Okay, I'm avoiding any copyright haggles with YouTube and Google with this song.
My spirit rejoices in God. My glory be to God the Father, and glory be to God the Son. Glory be to God the Spirit. Glory be to God. Glory be to God the Father, and glory be to God the Son. Glory be to God the Spirit. Glory be to God. My glory be to God the Almighty, and glory be to God the Son. Glory be to God the Spirit. Glory be to God. My glory be to God the Father, and glory be to God the Son. Glory be to God.
Okay, another day. And again, my name's Herb Lair, and I do podcast, Finding Your Happy Place. Today, I'm talking more about it takes a community. And I attended Chenal Valley Church today. And I typically, as far as my class, I sat by Gary Adams. And we'll talk about Gary Adams's days as a Razorback. It was around 1966, 68. He came in from Piggott, and back in the days when Frank Broyles did a lot of retail, he could tell you exactly where Piggott was, and he knew all about the talent that Gary had. He was a quarterback, but he turned to be a defensive back, and Gary won't tell you unless he's asked, and I quizzed him about a number of interceptions, and he had that as far as the record, and he had a lot of those. And that was up until the time of
Steve Atwater.
He was, All-American, and went to Denver and was all NFL pro out there. But I say that because I sit by Gary every Sunday. And it was funny today because it was raining. I said, "What about the golf?" He always plays golf on Sunday afternoon. And said, "We're not playing today." And I said, "Well," I made a comment to the preacher, Bryce. I said, "Bryce, you're going to have more time today because Gary doesn't play golf, and you can go a little longer." and they kind of laughed about that, but it turned out the services was a little longer. And Gary was doing a communion devotional. Now, the big thing about that was that Gary, when he was doing that, he had kind of a Mount Rushmore of people. And in fact, the building that we were sitting in class was named for a young person that was killed in a car wreck. So he mentioned him, and he mentioned Haley Wilson, who I knew as well. Haley was a big Longhorn fan, so there's a little bit of a comment about that. But I've recently, I pulled out my Longhorn cap, and that's kind of part of that's in memory of Haley. And you'll see how popular Haley was, but also you can see some things that happened with Haley. I remember going to visit him, and he was near death. It was toward the end, and I went in, and I knew I could get a reaction if I started talking about Longhorns. And I sat there, and I was looking around, and I said, well, now, where are we having Longhorn things? And, you always wonder about people who are laying there and not very, as far as communicating. And all of a sudden, he put his hand up there, and he grabbed hold of the blanket, and that blanket was burnt orange. And I laughed, and you could see kind of a smile of on his face. So anytime I put the Longhorn cap on, there's another reason for it. I like to remember Haley, but that event is always going to stick in my mind. But then, he talked about a lot of other things and other people, and of course the focus of the communion devotion was about Jesus Christ, and I wanted to make sure that you see that as far as his devotion. But he talked about one of the preachers there that had kind of started the congregation there, and that was Burleson. And Burleson was a guy I'd gotten to meet. I was always impressed with how he stayed on top of everything. And back in that time, he'd get a text, and he'd be reacting and everything. And they said, well, that's just his mode of operation. He would be on a golf course, and you wouldn't know that. So he could be doing about anything and everything. And I've talked to some other people, and they was tell about him being afraid of things like snakes, or he'd be other events that he might show that he's a tough guy, and he'd getting put in a position, and he wasn't as tough as he might sound. So we got into a lot of those kind of comments, and I think that you'll enjoy that part. I also want to encourage people to sign up to be a subscriber. And I've come in a little bit, and you see some of the books here in the background. Again, A Son's Journey says Parkinson's disease caregiver to an advocate. And then the one by Frank O'Meara about Men Don't Break. The point I'm making on that, and I keep making this point, is that when people give up, or when family or friends give up, it goes down pretty fast. So you have to really stay on top of this. Maintenance is a big thing, and I emphasize that about every podcast I do, of doing something or going and doing. And you have to do that, but you have to be encouraged. And when that encouragement goes away, then that person goes away. And it wouldn't necessarily be me, but it could be a family or friend. Or in the case of the doctor there in the book, he found that out about his mother, and he wondered why she went down so fast. And if you read the book, it's a lot about how you get preoccupied with a lot of activities, and then you just kind of ignore a person. I know in my situation, the biggest thing I found is the old friends and even family. There's a sort of way of saying, well, he's not like he used to be. He's strange, and we're going to just ignore him or put him off somewhere. I think some people have thought, well, maybe he's kind of faking it. I've gone to the doctor several times with that, because I don't have the Michael J. Fox image, and they see me doing what I'm doing, and then I go back to the doctor and I say, are you sure? And he says, yeah, he's positive. In fact, I took the test. Now, you're going to say something about, the leaders, and it doesn't have to necessarily be Trump or even Biden, but you can see that across the board, where some people have kind of lost it. It may be dementia, but sometimes it may be Parkinson's, and they don't want to be identified. You know, Brett Favre didn't want that label because once he got the label, he's kind of ignored now. And I saw that when I saw him speak at the Little Rock Touchdown Club. I could tell it right away by his motions and actions. And I can guarantee you there's some people today as leaders that have it, and they don't want that label. They might not have the job they have, or they may be moving on. They want to keep the power and money and everything else rolling in. So I'll let you play that game, but I know it, and people who has it know it. Now, if you tuned in the Willie Geist once, you saw how he handled that situation, not only with his dad, but Ryan Reynolds, who's the big movie star these days. He didn't know really how to handle it with his dad because it wasn't, the Michael J. Fox type of Parkinson's, but he said he thought his dad had gone nuts. And
Marvel Jesus.
Ryan Reynolds is back in action as the unconventional Marvel superhero Deadpool. And this time, he's brought an old friend along for the ride.
I'm the Wolverine. Yes, you are, and I'm gonna need you to come with me right now. Last week, I walked around New York City with Hugh, and it was wild to walk around. It felt like we maybe saved a baby from a burning building or something. It was pretty wild. People really found a lot of love and joy and happiness in the movie, and that's the thing I'm most proud of. Your little cinematic universe is about to change forever.
After racing past $1 billion at the box office, Deadpool and Wolverine is on track to become the highest-grossing R-rated movie of all time. But now, the third installment of Reynolds' passion project is facing a battle at the box office with the movie It Ends With Us, starring Ryan's wife, Blake Lively.
Despite your successful and happy marriage, you're famously vicious professional rivals. So did you say to her, I beat you by that much at the box office?
Only time in my life I've ever dreamt of coming in second. No, I think that's like the sign of a good relationship. It's always been the one kind of constant with Blake and I is that, we really root for each other.
The 47-year-old Reynolds is father to 4 kids with Lively. Their newest addition, a baby boy, arrived last year. Fatherhood has Ryan rethinking a complicated relationship with his own dad, James, who died in 2015 after a 20-year battle with Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's affects an estimated 1 million Americans, including Michael J. Fox and my father, Bill Geist.
I was reading through your dad's story, and my gosh, is it almost shot for shot our story, which is diagnosed at a pretty young age.
Yeah,
my
your dad was 47,
47,
48?
yeah. And denial for a long time.
Yeah.
In fact, we didn't name it for a long time.
No. And Matt might have said Parkinson's, I think, 3 times in his entire life, to me. It wasn't until very late into my father's battle that I even knew hallucinations and delusions were common in people with Parkinson's.
Today, Ryan, alongside his mother Tammy, is partnering with Acadia Pharmaceuticals to raise awareness about some lesser-known warning signs of Parkinson's.
Jim came home from a trip, and he was convinced I'd been in the car with him. I was not in the car.
Reynolds' dad, among the 50% of Parkinson's patients who experience delusions and hallucinations, says neurologist Dr. Daniel Kremens.
People think of Parkinson's disease as just like a motor disease where they have a little bit of tremor or maybe some slowness or difficulty walking. But Parkinson's disease is so much more complicated than that.
I just kind of cast it as, he's losing his marbles. Had I known, I think I would have handled it better. I think I would have been a much more patient person. I think my father would have felt way less alone.
In his father's final months, a moment of joy.
He met your first child, right?
He met my daughter, James,
Yes.
who's named for him.
So you got that pleasure.
Yeah, and I love that she got to meet him. Granddaughters would have really changed him.
Yeah, right. Softens you right up.
Yeah.
Wow.
In addition to being
they kind of put him off in a corner, and they isolated him and his mother. And I've been through that a little bit. And it's not fun. And you go out and you do, and you you try to do things, and that's why I do the podcast. So it's pretty critical, and I try to get back that again, that this is a time that if you really want to support people, myself and others, because I talk about people with depression, and I talk about people with anxiety and being delusional, because I am that animal. And when I do that, you're going to see that in other people, and you're going to say, well, I saw that, and I saw how it changed him. And you're going to be seeing changes in me. You probably see it, this year as I've done podcasts. I've done a wide range of people, from TV to celebrities to radio celebrities to executive directors of even the zoo or out at the Arkansas Museum of Fine Arts. Go down the list, and the top guy at neurology, the chair of the neurology department, his father has Parkinson's, so he was willing to participate. So it's not been a problem getting people to participate, and the message is clear. But we're going into 2025, and that's the National Plan to End Parkinson's, and it's going to be a boondoggle, much like taking the broadband out to the rural market. And if Elon Musk wants to do something, that's the thing he can attack is money being spent on he's got a really good solution for those remote locations, and that's with his satellite system. So he could take that on, maybe put a little money over in the Parkinson's. And I've got some great ideas on caregivers. I've talked to caregivers, and I know what it takes. And I sure want to have a caregiver like I've had with people that's contact me. Again, I talk about John Michael Hudson. I talk about Lida Adkin Kreiner, and a lot of others that have come to my help and benefit. So, time to join in. It's thanks.
Here's Gary Adams and his devotion.
This past September, I was at Lake of the Ozarks up in Missouri, and I was making a presentation on teamwork. And, as I think about teamwork, it makes no difference whether we're working in a business, whether we're on the football field, which I spend a lot of time on, whether it be our family, or whether it be here at church. It takes teamwork to accomplish anything. And I made a comment in my presentation. This was at the rural electric co-ops in the state of Missouri. And I made the statement, as I get older, I often wonder about, am I in my fourth quarter of life? Or possibly I'm already in overtime. I made my presentation, I sat down. The guy that got up after me made a presentation on time management. And he had it down to what he did every day, every 15 minutes of the day. I'm not quite that disciplined. But he made the comment, he said, I really enjoyed Gary's presentation. However, there's something that he said that I disagree with. Well, I kind of said, I wonder what this is going to be. He said, Gary made the comment that he's getting older, and he's wondering if he's in his fourth quarter of life, or maybe he's in overtime. I'm here to tell you, it makes no difference how old we are. We can be a newborn babe. We can be 16 years old, 57 years old, 75 years old, 99 years old. Every one of us, we're in overtime. Because tomorrow is not promised to any of us. And as I was thinking about what he said, it made me think about different members of this church who are not with us any longer. And I don't know, for the first one that came to mind was, see if I can make this work, Michael Wortham. 16 years old, taken from us. A lot of you don't know the story about Michael Worthen. But Michael was a young man. That's a picture of his parents and Stephanie, his little sister. Michael played football. There he is. Played football for the Joe T. Robinson Senators. Pretty good football player. But more than that, he was a really good little son to his parents, good brother to his sister. But another thing about Michael was, in our church here, he was looked up to in the youth department. He was what I would call a quiet leader. Didn't talk a lot, didn't say a lot, but people knew who Michael Worthen was. And he had such a great impression on this church that now we have a facility named after him, the Michael Worthen Family Center up the hill. The next person that I want to talk about is Haley Wilson. Haley was involved with just about everything going on at this church. There wasn't much going on that Haley wasn't right in the middle of. And I remember getting a telephone call one day from Jeff Hankins. And Jeff said, Gary said, I know Haley is an avid Texas Longhorn fan. And I knew that too. Haley and I had had our conversations about the Razorbacks in Texas. He said, there's going to be somebody coming to Little Rock to speak at the Little Rock Touchdown Club. His name is Earl Campbell. And I was wondering if you could maybe take Haley to that event. See, during football season, we have a touchdown club in Little Rock. There's about 450, 500 people that attend. And Jeff had a conflict and couldn't take Haley, so I went by the house, picked up Haley. We had a good conversation on the way downtown. We got down there and everything was fine. Everything was fine until Earl Campbell and Haley gave about 450, 500 Arkansas Razorbacks a hook 'em horn sign. That didn't go over too good. Michelle, I thought about Haley last night. I don't know if any of you watched the football game between Texas and Georgia. But that game went in overtime. 6 months after this picture was taken, Haley was no longer with us. Some of you don't know who this guy is. A lot of you do. The Big Bird. Probably my best friend. Now, Danny had a lot of really best friends. But Danny and I spent a lot of time together, mostly on the golf course. I remember my wife told me one time that you and Danny played in 13 golf tournaments one summer. Sometimes at Bryce, we'd have to let church out a little early so we could make her tea time. Danny was 74 years old when he passed away. See this picture right here? That's Danny on the left, better known as the Big Bird. That's me on the right. We all had our nicknames. I was the Fuzz. I had curly hair at one time. I don't mind being called the Fuzz, just don't call me like a fuzz. That guy in the middle, anybody know who he is? Darren Clark. Darren Clark was here in Little Rock last month, the big Simmons golf tournament that we had here. Now, I will say Darren put on a little weight since that picture. Danny went up to Darren and said, "Darren, would you like to have your picture made with me and the Fuzz?" This was in the year 2000, the U.S. Open, Pebble Beach, California. See those hats we got on? Still got mine. Those are Chenal Valley softball hats. We used to have a softball team here at church. Danny and I, we'd wear our Chenal Valley hats. People want to know, what's that CV stand for? Danny said, that's Chenal Valley. That's our church. This is a true story. Most of my stories are true. This one is. At this tournament, we ran into a couple, and they asked about our hats. Danny told the story about Chenal Valley. About 3 years after that, that couple, passing through Little Rock, came to church here. So we were advertising our Chenal Valley Church in the year 2000. It happened to be the year that Tiger Woods won the U.S. Open. You know, if it weren't for Danny, we wouldn't be here today. He's the one that wanted this church to start. Now, there's one other person I want to say something about. Jesus Christ. I would say probably, around 33 years old when he died. He didn't really have to die. I'm certain it wasn't something that he was looking forward to. But in chapter 26 of Matthew, Jesus says, "My Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me." He not only said that one time, but he said it 3 times. But Jesus knew it wasn't possible for him not to die on the cross for us, because Jesus loves us, and he had faith in his Father's wisdom and his power. So I'll remember that we're in overtime. Let's bow. Thank you, Father, for the opportunity that we have to be one of your children. Help us to put our attention on the cross as we partake of the bread and the juice. Also help every one of us, regardless of our age, to realize that we are in overtime. And we need to live our life as if today, December 8th, 2024, will be our last day on this earth. In Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
In memory of Haley Wilson, the long-time Longhorn fan.
All right. I was not surprised when I went on the fan transfer portal and I picked the Longhorns that they would end up with a deal of having to play Georgia in the state of Georgia and have officials that flipped the coin and always had it end up where Georgia won the toss or won the coin. They won it the first of the game and they won it in the overtime. And also, there's a lot of stuff that went on there that you would expect when you first come into the SEC. You wouldn't get any breaks. There'd be a lot of holding. There'd be a lot of stuff going on there that would be against the Horns. I was, with the Hogs a long time in the Southwest Conference, and we was always having to play Texas teams in Texas, so we know what getting screwed in a game's all about. So that was one of the reasons that I wanted to choose the Horns, so I could take the role of a Hog fan and what we know about what's happening. But I still think as we get into the playoffs, there could be a way for the Horns to win the national championship. So I go with my fan transfer portal. It may not look good, but there's a lot of reasons that game in Georgia, played in Georgia, went against the Horns, and I wasn't totally surprised by that. So we'll stay with the Horns and the fan transfer portal, and it'll be okay. It'll be all right. Okay.
Coming attraction will be It's All About Community, Part 2. So today when I went to the annual Christmas event at the activity area, it was interesting. I met some people. One was a friend of my dad who was a Frank Line dealer. He was in Batesville. My dad was in, of course, Harrison, but they went on some trips together, so that's interesting. Then also a great friend of Steve Lair and Steve Turner in the oil business. I'll let you pick them out and listen to them, but they have great stories about the time they've spent with Steve Lair, Steve Turner, and getting to know the Lair oil business in marketing on the statewide basis.
The irony of being from Bellefonte, Arkansas, and remembrance of my dad's TV and appliance business as well as the service station, and now at the villas of Chenal, and my next door neighbor knew my dad while he was in business.
About Joe Lair, hell of a man. Hell of a man. Never met a stranger, always trying to sell something. Good guy.
I think that's good, and the customer service.
He could even talk Spanish and dance Spanish.
He could do that.
Yeah, he could.
You've been on trips all over with Frank Line Group, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, and you were a dealer?
I was another dealer like Joe was.
Plus,
I worked for Frank Line for years.
You did work with Frank Line,
right?
So you had Whirlpool, RCA, and all the other things.
All the goodies.
Yeah. So when you went on trips, you could finally expect Joe Lair to be kind of
He was the instigator.
He was the instigator.
Yeah.
So when you were going to have fun if you went on a trip with him, right?
He was.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
He did good.
I don't know. Did you ever think about any business things, or did you all just?
No, we were just friends.
You were just friends.
He was too far away to be.
We're in Harrison, and you're in Batesville.
In Batesville, so now, we couldn't share trucks or do anything. So
you didn't compete on anything yet.
No, we didn't.
And how long were you in business in Batesville?
14 years.
But you worked for Frank Line where now?
In Shreveport.
Shreveport?
Yep.
Did you ever work here in Little Rock with Frank Line?
No. I came to work for him here, but they transferred me to Shreveport.
Okay. And after that, you figured out you'd
Then I moved to Batesville and put my own business in.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I kind of wanted to know that, and then I want to pass this on to friends and family.
That'll be great.
Yeah, they'll enjoy finding somebody that, and I always like to talk to people and see a Razorback there. So he went to a lot of games too. So
he did.
I went to a few. I went to did you go to the 1978 Orange Bowl down here?
No, I did not.
Okay, that was a Frank Line trip.
Yeah.
And I went to Austin too. So
yeah.
A lot of things going on. I guess you went.
Oh yeah.
You go to Spain, or where did you go?
I went to Spain.
Yeah. Well, I know he went there. And I think he took his.
I went to Spain. Went to Mexico.
I think. Did you ever meet Monty, or you may not have?
I don't know if I did or not. That's been a few years back.
Yeah, he may have gone on that trip.
Yeah.
I'll let him talk about that when he sees it.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks for
enjoyed it.
Enjoyed it here. It's not going to be anything formal, but I just wanted you to kind of talk about your connection with Steve Lair and Steve Turner and the oil business and marketing and what all you've done in your life. But we're here together in the villas of Chenal now, so say a few words about what you're doing and what you remember of Steve Lair and Steve Turner. So.
All right, Steve Lair. Hey, Steve Turner. It's great to hear from you guys through your uncle and cousin here. And I want to wish y'all both a very Merry Christmas. I hope y'all are both doing well. Steve, I understand that, Lair, that you are half and half. You live in Florida part of the time. You live in Branson part of the time. You're doing well. Turner, it's good to hear from you again. And I appreciate our friendship over the years. I hope you're still doing well health-wise. I am. I'm 86 now, and still going strong with some of the old age problems. I got neuropathy pretty bad, but other than that, I'm still functioning. And I wish y'all a very Merry Christmas, and come down here and see us. You got to read more than me now. You got a kinfolk down here. We got a nice place to live.
Yeah, let's get Steve Lair, Steve Turner all down here. we'll have a party down here like we do today.
There you go.
Very good. I'm glad you're able to give that message out, and I'll make sure I get it to them. Thanks.
It takes a community, particularly for people with disabilities and Parkinson's.
And finally, the Ferndale Christmas Parade. Ferndale's a small community. I've been there to the market, so it's a fun time. And Dale White is an instigator of a lot of things we did there.
Then you can look whatever. Hang on, I've got some more. Hey, I'm not emptying my pockets all the way. You're just worried about the Get that green bracelet. What's that bracelet say? I'm gonna get the Twizzlers. What's that green bracelet? I don't know. I didn't want them. I could give them away or do something with them. Sure. Here's 2 more. I'm just trying to get them off the road. Look at there.
Thank you. Smarties! Shepherd wants Smarties. Why not?
You need a ring pop? I think you need a ring pop. That's okay. Merry Christmas. Mistletoe. That is a cute idea. The mistletoe. Something like that. Very cute. I know, Jennifer's a kid. Can you hear me? It was all the family. Mom? See, the funniest they threw it through one over my head.
I got the vehicle.
Another day with our community at Parkinson's Awareness